Welcome into the Big Chief Show on a NCAA tournament kickoff eve. Now, Chris, and we've got our boy Chris from takingvegas.com. So let's get, and of course, you guys are probably sitting there thinking to yourself, all right, well, we know you guys talk football, and we know you guys talk all things sports, but let's call it what it is. Chris, and you know this. I mean, it's basketball season. It's arguably the next 3 weeks are three of the most intense weeks in all of sports, and these next 4 days, starting tomorrow, are four of the most exciting days. And I don't care if we're talking highlight. I don't care if we're talking cricket. I don't care what sport you're talking about, Chris. These next 4 days are some of the best days in sports, and who better to talk it with than one Mr. Chris Hodge, who's been doing this longer than most people have forgotten about. So let's get right to it, my man. Number one, look, the one thing about the NCAA tournament that gets people going is, you got the NCAA tournament selection show. But real quick, before we get to, we're going to get to that. We're going to get it because I got so many different things I want to run by you real quick before when we get this thing going. Because I know there's been a lot of talk about with the transfer portal, with NIL, with one and dones, and has the NCAA tournament lost its luster? I'm going to ask you that here in just a second. But look. We had a couple games last night. Virginia, who snuck in, and then they looked absolutely awful last night, Chris.
Virginia doing Virginia things. I don't care that they won a tournament.
Virginia doing Virginia things.
They're doing Virginia things. Just like Purdue was going to do Purdue things, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
And I appreciate you setting me up for that. And look, okay, here's my thing. I feel like this could be kind of the year of the breakthrough. And it's going to have that kind of vibe a little bit. At least my bracket certainly has that kind of vibe. But then blue blood, in my world, in the way I see it, the cream always rises to the top. And the one thing about college basketball, and here's and Chris, tell me if you agree with me on this, yes or no. The thing we love about college football and college basketball, especially college basketball, especially at the tournament, is that, you can have Cinderellas, you can have those early rounds, second round upsets and what have you. But let's be real, Chris. At the end of the day, the blue bloods always win. A blue blood is always going to, think about last year. San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, Florida
Atlantic, FAU.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic, Miami, and UConn.
Well, last year was anarchy. Last year was crazy. Like last year, brackets were shot by the Sweet 16, like destroyed.
They were.
No one had a shot.
It was rough.
But yes, UConn comes out of it and gets the job done. And now they're the guns this year, right? They're the team that everyone's chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we talk that bracket first. What's that? That's the East, right? So yes. They put them at the Barclays Center, which is Brooklyn. That's home that's a home game for UConn. Like they're going to be UConn fans are going to be packed there, and then they get the regionals in Boston. So they're playing home games, right?
They are.
I think the only team that could beat them in that bracket is Iowa State. That's the only team that could beat them.
Interesting.
And I think it was a poor job by the committee because there is no way you could tell me Iowa State was the fourth best number 2.
No.
That is so ridiculous.
No.
It's insanity. So I think that regional final will be a great regional final if it happens.
I'm guessing that's who you've got in your regional final.
So I got UConn playing Iowa State out of that bracket.
Okay.
Look, UConn's the best team in college basketball.
I agree. Well, yeah, I'm not going to dispute that.
There's no value in them, right? They're 4-1 to win the NCAA tournament, right? There's no value there. You want to bet them at 4-1? Okay, they're the best team. You don't need me to tell you that. Everyone knows that. But there is some value with Iowa State at 18-1. So I got UConn playing Iowa State in the Elite Eight out of that bracket. I think UConn will end up winning the game, especially being that it's in Boston. But Iowa State travels very well, which is what you told me a couple of days ago. And that showed when they went to Kansas City and just annihilated Houston. But I think there's some value in Iowa State at 18-1 to win the tournament.
I don't disagree. I do have them getting to the. I do have them making it to the Eastern final as well, or Eastern bracket final as well. However, I've got UConn getting upset by Auburn. Okay, I like Auburn to shock. I don't know if you'd say shock the world. A couple things. One, it's incredibly difficult to repeat, especially right in college basketball. We haven't seen one since 2006, 2007, when Florida did it. And when you look at those, I mean, and we have a better appreciation now of just how good those two teams were, right? When you consider, you had Joaquin Noah, you had Corey Brewer, you had.
Great team.
Was Mike Miller on those teams?
Great teams, man. They had it all. They had inside, they had outside, they had ball handlers. They had a great team.
Al Horford, who's still in the league for crying out loud. Billy Donovan was the guy on that team, or was coaching that team as well. Yep. So that team was loaded. Like I said, we got a better appreciation for that team now, just for how good they actually were.
I like that though. I have no problem with Auburn. Look, it's so hard to repeat. You just said it. I have no problems with Auburn. Catching UConn in the Sweet 16. And beating them. I just think where that game is going to be played
is going to make a difference.
It's a home game. They gave UConn 4 home games. They literally gave UConn.
When you're the number 1 overall seed, that's you win that right? I mean, that's
no gripe. No gripe. It's just going to be very hard to beat them. But I like that.
The thing about Auburn, though, is that what I like about them, you're battle tested coming out of the SEC, right? And you got scores, right? Whether it's Johnny Broom, whether it's Jalen Williams, you got 2 guys that can, that can get buckets. You got 3 or 4 guys because look, I'm a big believer in that game where Broom or Williams is struggling or maybe not getting you what you thought you were going to get. You're gonna need that 3rd or 4th guy that's going to have to step up. And Auburn's got that kind of depth again, and that's the difference. And you're going to need in the NCAA tournament, you're always going to need that 3rd or 4th guy that's going to have to step 100%. Up, whether that's in a tournament, whether that's in a Sweet 16, whether that's an Elite 8 game, hell, whether that's in a Final 4 game. So, and I'll say this much. Like I said earlier, I think there's something about this tournament where it feels like because of the coaching, and you've got a lot of coaches in this particular tournament, Chris, where you've got guys who are a lot of coaches. Matt Painters, the Kelvin Sampsons, the Bruce Pearls, decorated coaches who are in that conversation of best coach to never win an NCAA title, right? And can one of those guys break through? We'll find out and see. I'll let you know where I find on that, but I like Auburn to break through.
I like that. I mean, look, these brackets never go like everyone thinks they're going to go.
Of course not.
So I have no problem with Auburn giving a good upset to UConn in the Sweet 16. Something's going to happen. Something crazy is going to happen. And I like that. Me personally, I got UConn. I went 1-2 in that bracket. The West bracket, I might have something for you. The West bracket, I think I have something good for you there.
Let's go to the West bracket where we've got the Fighting Petey Pablos, aka North Kakalaki, with that number 1 seed. Let me ask you this real quick though. Why does it seem like North Carolina is getting a lot of hate as far as being the first? A lot of people are thinking they're going to be the first number 1 seed to lose.
Well, I don't know how that could be based on what Houston just did. I mean, because Houston just showed up in the game. And they didn't just get beat. Like North Carolina loses to NC State. Okay, so NC State just had something going on. It happens every year. They were a team that had something going on, and there's no and it's a rivalry game. North Carolina State. Yeah, what Houston just did, and again, I know that's in the South, and we're on the West right now. But what Houston just did, we'll get to it. I mean, their 3 starting guards at one point were 6 for 36.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible, but we'll get to that in a moment. I did a show with you, I think a month or so ago. I think we can catch it in the archives. And I said, I believe one team can cause a lot of problems in the NCAA tournament, depending on their matchup. Now, this team doesn't play a lick of defense, okay? But they're going to be a problem.
I know you're going. I already know where you're going.
Alabama's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, because they could score 100 points. They can outscore you, and they don't care. Right, they're just going to shoot the ball. So look, Alabama gets Grand Canyon. They get Charleston, right? Who they should blow out, and then they get St. Mary's Grand Canyon. Okay, whoever wins that game, and I just don't believe any of those 3 teams, Charleston, St. Mary's, or Grand Canyon, are going to be able to slow down Alabama's offense. And who cares?
Okay.
Do you really care if you win a game 98, 96? Do you really care? You just want to move on.
Yeah. Survive in advance. Survive in advance.
I would have in the I have Alabama playing North Carolina in the Sweet 16. And I think North Carolina is a great team. Great inside game. Obviously, they're a better defensive team than Bama. We know this. But I said it a month ago. I think Bama can cause problems, so I'm going to stay with that. I think Bama makes it to the Elite Eight. Well, they'll play Arizona.
Okay, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I've got Arizona making it in mine as well. I do have St. Mary's upending Alabama in that second round, just for the simple fact that I think St. Mary's Alabama is going to be a track meet. Just for the simple fact that, like you said, Alabama plays zero defense. I think those two teams are going to get up and down the court. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those deals where it's like you said, a 98-96 game when it's all said and done. I think the St. Mary's Alabama game, whoever wins that ball game, I think it's going to be one of the best games of the NCAA tournament from a highlight standpoint and what have you. Because again, those are two teams that can get up and down the basketball or get up and down the court. But I like North Carolina to win this bracket, to win this region. When you consider the depth that team has, when you consider you got Armando Bacot, who's probably not much younger than you and I, and then when you got RJ Davis, okay, it's North Carolina, right? And this is a team that took care of business in big games. I'm not, like you said, I'm not losing any sleep over them losing to North Carolina State in the NCAA, in the ACC tournament.
Man, that team just got hot. I mean, it is what it is. It happens every year. If you think about it. Everyone forgets this. UConn didn't win the Big East last year. Marquette did, right? No. So, you got these teams that don't win their conference tournaments, and everyone kind of jumps off the bandwagon. The one team I'm doing that with, and again, we'll talk, is Houston. I'm completely off. I can't stand that team, so I'm completely off that team. But I'm on a long shot here with Bama because they're 25-1. Okay. And I'm just thinking they can cause problems. I'm just thinking that offense can cause problems. Now, if you get to a point where they got to get a few stops, they're gonna have their own problems. Yeah. But I just think that
they just got to outscore people. That's what you're going for. You're just looking for them to just and look, it's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet. At the end of the day,
do you care if you win a game 73-70 or 96-93? Do you care? You just want to move on. So I like what Alabama does. Again, they don't play a lick of defense, but they're going to outscore people. So I'm going to have them play Zona in the Elite Eight.
What you worry about with a team like Alabama, though, and some of these teams that do like to shoot a lot of threes, and we know that there's plenty of teams like that in this tournament. I mean, that's just the way of the world with basketball these days, is you just worry about on those days because, again, one bad shooting half and you're done. Right, absolutely. One bad shooting half and you're done, and that can, and any team's susceptible to that. So I looked at Bama long and hard, but I don't know. I've watched St. Mary's play a couple times this year, and there's just something about them. They're kind of sneaky good in a way. We'll see.
I'll tell you the truth. I hate that West Coast Conference, and I'm going to sound like a little bit of a hypocrite in about 10 minutes.
Sure.
But that conference I don't take seriously. And again, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite. I'm giving you guys a spoiler. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite in about 10 minutes. Okay.
Because you're going to take Gonzaga after that. Because you're going to shit on St. Mary's, but then you're going to take Gonzaga,
the team that Gonzaga lost to. Yeah, and again in the NCAA tournament, it's all matchups. So we can get the Midwest. We can go to the South. But who do you got Elite Eight in the West?
In the West, I'm going with North Carolina, and I'm going with Arizona.
So you're going 1-2.
I'm going 1-2. I'm going 1-2.
That's what I did in the East.
I hate to say it, but I'm real chalky. I'm real chalky this year.
Really? I mean, you had Auburn. That's not.
I do have Auburn. I mean, they are a 4 seed. So yeah, you're right about that. I do. I mean, I guess I'll say this. I'm being a little more measured in my selection this year because, as you'll see when we talk about the Midwest, me being the rock chalk Jayhawk that I am, this is a rough. I'm going to say this right now. I never thought I'd live to see the day where I feel like the Kansas football program has more stability than the Kansas basketball program.
Come on, man. That's not fair.
Oh, it's absolutely fair.
Really?
100%.
Come on,
100%.
man. You guys are spoiled, man. I
No,
tell
we
you.
are spoiled. No, look. I don't disagree with that. You're 100% right. You are 1,000% correct about that. All I'm going to say is, and okay, so real quick, because I'll go on a tangent here in a second. So, all right, so you've got Bama and Arizona.
I got Bama, Arizona. Ultimately, I got Arizona going to the Final Four. But again,
that's a good pick.
We're talking about value, and we'll get to a long shot team that could make a run. Arizona.
Real quick, I'm glad. Okay, real quick, a team that, and I know you and a team that I flirted with. Real quick, a team I flirted with in the Eastern bracket, in the Eastern region. What kind of value are you getting on Illinois?
You know, there is good value with them. At the end of the day, I just give more to Iowa State. You know,
Okay.
like Illinois. Look, they won the Big Ten, and anytime you win your conference title, great job. I mean, they closed out Wisconsin. That game was tied with 2 minutes left, and actually not only won, they covered the game too, because they were -3.5, -4. I have no problem with Illinois. You know who Illinois is like? It's like they're a good team, and we'll talk about this in a moment, that no one's talking about, because there's a good team in the South who's notoriously been great, and no one is talking about them. So you want to go over to the South?
I like that. That's a hell of a tease, my friend. That is a hell of a tease. I like what you did there. So let's make our way to the South region, where your favorite team in U of H, which apparently is not going to get Kelvin Sampson, not getting any Christmas cards from Chris Hodge this year, especially after that final clunker.
That was so bad. That was so bad. That was embarrassingly bad.
What team outside of U of H, which we know you hate, which team are you? Which team is nobody talking about that is on the Chris Hodge and TakingVegas.com region?
There's two of them in that region. I think they're both going to play in the Elite Eight. No one is talking about Duke. No one is talking about Kentucky. You mentioned it, 15 minutes ago, the Blue Bloods. No one, you can't even listen to anyone about those two teams right now. No one's saying anything. Duke is 25-1 to win this thing. Would it shock anyone? Anyone? Kentucky's 25-1. Like, would it shock anyone?
Duke, well, okay. That's a great question. Would it shock me if Duke won? Yes, it would.
Really? Why?
Because John Shire, I'm not convinced can coach. I know he can recruit. Look, John Shire has shown that he is a masterful recruiter. But what has he done with that talent other than constantly underwhelm? And that's the issue with John Shire. We are still in that, and I get it. You're coming off of, you're following up arguably one of the greatest college coaches in just in basketball, right? Just basketball history. Let's just get that out of the way.
Hard to do.
Extremely hard to do, but it's not like he's hit the. It's not as though the cupboard was bare, and B, it's not as though he's struggled on the recruiting trail. I mean, this guy has literally brought in 3 5-stars each. He's got Cooper Flagg coming in. He's got some foreign kid coming in this year. I mean, you could argue he's recruiting at a higher level right now than in the last 3 or 4 years of what Coach K did when he left, right?
So I think it's a fascinating matchup in the second round. I mean, so you got Duke playing Vermont. Let's just go chalk here. Duke playing Vermont, Wisconsin playing James Madison. Now, Wisconsin is a 5-12. There's always a 12 that throws a monkey wrench into this thing. I don't think that's going to be the 12 to do it. So I like that matchup in that second round, Duke, Wisconsin. That's a good matchup. I think Houston will play Texas A&M in the second round.
I do too.
I think Texas A&M will beat them. I really do.
I don't.
You see, now here's the thing, right? Texas A&M has the guards to match up with Houston. And I know I know Shed won the Big 12 Player of the Year and Defensive Player and all this great stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is this. How can you take anyone seriously that just shot 3 of 17 in a championship game? How do you take that guy seriously?
I don't disagree with you, but I will say this.
3 of 17 is terrible. You played basketball this morning. You weren't 3 of 17.
No, I wasn't. But I wasn't. I wasn't 3. I didn't take 17 shots either. But But here's the thing, though, okay? And I love because, okay, I'm going to call you out because, and I love how, you not only did you say you're going to be hypocritical about the West Coast Conference, but I would argue you're being slightly hypocritical about conference tournaments as well. I'm not reading too much into U of H getting blasted by Iowa State.
We're not talking about just losing, though, Fred.
Oh, no, look, I'm not going to – look, they look like dog shit. I will be the first to tell you.
Annihilated.
But I'll say this, though. But think about this. Couple things. One, you had Roberts almost get hurt the day before, okay? You had – this is a team that is not notoriously deep in U of H. This is a team that goes 7, maybe 8 deep, all right?
Okay. So everything you're about to say, lose by 7. Lose by 7. Lose 71-64.
I would rather get that out of my system in the championship game of the Big 12 championship than in the Sweet 16 of the late. Because that's the type of performance that we've seen out of U of H in years past in mid-round games in the NCAA tournament, right? And I think the difference is, I think with U of H, you just had a slog of a Big 12, which they've never had before. And I think, look, again, and look, am I a little partial to U of H because that's where I am, and I'm a Houston guy, and look, if I'm not going to ride on my KU bandwagon, which we'll get to that here in a little bit, I got to ride with somebody. I'm and they're a Jordan school, so I got to give them a little deference to that. And let's call it what it is. Kelvin Sampson, I don't think gets enough credit for what he's done for that program. I really don't.
He's a great coach, but take your emotion out of it, right? To me, they're a team that is like a boxer that just suffered a
big fights,
and he's never the same. I mean, that wasn't just a loss. They were so brutally exposed in that game as a team that can't shoot. If they get into a game where they have to score in the high 70s, I don't think they could do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, Texas A&M could score. I mean, look, so and that's a little hypocritical there because they're the worst 3-point shooting team in the world. But if they make their shots on a certain day, which they did in the first half against Florida, they can fill it up. I think Texas A&M could beat Houston. I like Duke and Kentucky to play in that Elite Eight. I really think it's going to be a blue blood Elite Eight.
I don't disagree with you on the Kentucky standpoint. You and I are in lockstep as far as Kentucky goes. Like I said, I've got Duke losing to James Madison. Okay. I'm going.
So you got the 12 beating Wisconsin, and then you got the 12 beating Duke.
100%.
Listen, I like that. So where's chalk there? Where?
Yeah. No.
Right.
Look, I will go off the rails from time to time. Trust me on that. Okay.
That's great.
I'm not opposed to going off the rails,
that.
But I will say this:
where are we with Texas Tech? Do we think Texas Tech? I know they would play Kentucky in the second round if they get NC State, who's hot.
Let me tell you about Kentucky. Kentucky, I'm telling you right now, and I don't want to tip my hand too much here. I've got Kentucky and U of H in the Elite Eight out of this region. When you look at Texas A&M, I love Buzz Williams, okay? And I hear his coach's show is on in Houston all the time. I love him as a human being. He's one of the most motivational guys you've ever heard from a coach. And I get it. He's a coach. He's got to be. But look, here's the thing about U of H. I think they got that clunker out of their system. I really, really do. I think they are going to struggle, but they've got a 3-man guard group with Sharp, with Cryer, and with your boy Shed, and then Roberts is going to be 100% coming back.
They were 6 for 36 at one point in that game.
Short memories, my friend.
36.
Short memory, okay? Short memory.
Okay. Off the top of your head, let's see how smart you are. Let's see how smart you are. Off the top of your head, what is 6 for 36 percentage-wise? What is that percentage-wise?
36. I know 6 times 6 is 36. So what? Let's see.
Come on, quick. Show the people how smart you are.
18%.
Oh, 16%. 16 friggin' percent you shot your 3 best guards. By the way, of the number 1 ranked team in the country at the time.
Was that like the worst loss since like 1982 or something like that?
The worst loss since the cavemen decided to throw rocks at each other. That's how bad that loss was. Okay? So, at the end of the day, I can't take them seriously. I don't mind the upset. I don't mind you going with the 12. I don't think James Madison gets by Wisconsin, but I like great differ there. I got Duke, Kentucky playing in the Elite Eight, and I got Duke going to the Final Four.
Oh, Duke going to the Final Four. Okay.
I can't hold it. First of all, Duke, if I'm going to use the argument for NC State with North Carolina, I got to use it for Duke because NC State beat Duke, right? NC State just got hot in the conference tournament. So I'm not going to kill them for that.
I'm not concerned about what happened. I don't look at it that way. I'm not sold on John Shire as a coach, and I just don't think Duke's a physically or mentally strong team.
It might not be. I want to go a little different. And look, how about this? If Kentucky made it to the Final Four, I'm good with that too. I obviously got to pick one for this crazy stuff, and you can't have both. Duke, Kentucky in the Elite Eight, I think is a fascinating matchup, an old school matchup, a blue blood matchup.
Yeah.
Either team wins, I'm cool with it. For my bracket, I got Duke. So if Kentucky beats them, wouldn't shock me.
I got Kentucky making it out of mine. This team, I'll tell you what, this team reminds me a little bit of the 2022 KU team. Like I said, they go about 8 deep. They've got a lot of size, and they've got really, really good guard play.
Well, by the way, when was the last time Sleeper was ever attached to Kentucky? Sleeper.
Whew.
No one's talking about them right now.
Maybe Billy Gillespie days. I don't know. That's a great question.
Sleeper.
Well, look, I think it comes down to a couple things, right? I think it's you're talking about a 23-9 Kentucky team. And really, if we're being honest, we're talking about a Kentucky team that really for the last half decade has kind of fallen off. I mean, look, we're talking about a Kentucky team where a year or two ago, you had John Calipari fighting with Bob Stoops and talking shit back and forth about, which program is more important to the state of Kentucky. Right? I mean, when was where are we at in that realm when John Calipari is stooping to fight with the football coach?
Yeah, and that's just that's fodder. Like no one on earth is ever going to, especially in the SEC. Kentucky, look, and I'm not trying to get on anyone or cause any problems, especially for people in Kentucky, right? But Kentucky will never, ever, 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 ever be relevant in the SEC football conference, ever. They're never going to be better than LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn. You can
argue they're better than Tennessee. Well,
they're not. They're never going to. And look, Tennessee's
made them respectable.
I mean, they're a good team. They're above Vanderbilt, But Alabama, LSU, they're above Arkansas. But in terms of
that's true.
Kentucky is never winning an SEC title in football. Ever. And now with Texas and Oklahoma in it, never. Write it down.
Never winning.
Tell you what I do. I'll make you a bet right here. I'm 40. I'm going to be 45 in April. Now, this is going to be, you might not want to do this because it's not in good taste. Okay?
I love it. No, I'm all for it.
I will make you a $500 bet that in my lifetime, Kentucky never wins an SEC title. Now, if I die, you will feel free to go to my wake and collect from my wife.
I would never do that.
I know it's not a good taste.
How cheap, how rotten of a human being would I have to be to show up at your wake? Hey,
I have a bet. I have a bet with one of my best friends that I will outlive him. It's $1,000 bet. Okay, that I will outlive him. And now he's not married. I am. And I told him I feel very bad going up to your sister while you lay in the coffin and say, hey, he owes me $1,000. But I'm going to do it because you pissed me off so much. Now, the sister might slap me. Fine.
No, you will definitely get slapped. You will definitely.
He owes me $1,000.
I wouldn't mind going. If that does happen, I wouldn't mind going just to see it. All right, $500 bet. I'll just sit in the back. You won't even know I'm there. All right. So you got Duke coming out of the South. I've got Kentucky coming out of the South, and like I said, we're both in agreement that you like Duke and Kentucky. I like Kentucky and U of H. And again, you will not. I'll tell you what. I'll put $1,000 bet down that you won't be getting a Christmas card or an alumni letter or any kind of like U of H. Hey, we appreciate your support letter from Kelvin Sampson.
Well, so wait till you hear what I'm about to say about Purdue. Oh. I might get death threats from those people.
Tell you what. Okay, so by the way, real quick, last thing on this region. both Duke and Kentucky are 25-1.
Yeah.
Woo!
25-1. Again, in my business, the sports handicapping industry, and I've done radio shows since 2006. I always believe you don't need to pay me for me to tell you, bet this team at -14 or bet this team at -17. Hell, you could do that on your own. You don't need me for that.
Yeah.
You need me to scour and find value with a +3. Like last night, we gave out Boston College +3.5, but not just +3.5. +155 on the money line as well. So all of my customers that are seeing this video, they know they got that game. That's what you need me for. You don't need me to, give you UConn at 4-1. Hell, anyone could do that. You don't need me for that. So I take that, personally, of trying to find value. Not always the easiest thing to do, but that's my job. So I like those two teams at 25-1. I think both of those teams can make a run.
Where are you at on? Let's move to the final region, that being the Midwest. How do you feel about Samford?
I mean, that's a setup question right there from you.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Give me your thoughts.
I don't think they'll beat Kansas. Even Kansas hurt. I know Kansas is in just a
dire straits
right now. I know McCullers is out. I know Dickinson is hurt. Would it shock me if they won that game? No, it would not. I just don't think they'll beat. I think Kansas has to have enough to beat Samford. I don't think Kansas will have enough to get by the next matchup, which is where I mentioned 10 minutes ago about the hypocrisy of what I'm saying here. Because I give the West Coast Conference no respect at all. But I got Gonzaga. I got Gonzaga going to the Elite Eight this year.
Ooh, okay. Tell you what, this is why it's fun. And I'll tell you what, this is how people can guarantee you that we did not do any kind of prepping. I mean, we did prepping as far as, hey, this is what we're going to talk about and this is what we're going to get into. But as far as comparing picks or anything like that, absolutely not. Because I've got Gonzaga getting beat by Will Wade, the Fighting Will Wades, and McNeese State.
And so you're going with the 12-5s, and I like that because every year 12 wins, right?
I love it.
So the 12. Who was the 12 I thought would win here? I had I think UAB can I think UAB can beat San Diego State. I think that's my 12 winner.
Okay.
I'm not sold on San Diego State, but that's all the way back to the East. I like you going with the 12s. I have no problem with that. A lot of people on TV have McNeese State thinking they could upset Gonzaga.
I'll tell you why it is, okay? I'll tell you what because look, they play in the Southland Conference, which is in my backyard, so I'm not a huge stranger to it. And I used to cover Lamar football back in the day. In fact, I covered when they first came, when they reignited that football program. So I know a little bit about McNeese. But that being said, Will Wade's gone through some shit now, right? I mean, Will Wade had LSU rolling. I mean, hell, he got Ben Simmons. I mean, hell, he paid, he was doing NIL before NIL was a thing. Wink, wink. I mean, hell, tell you what, the fact that Will Wade probably got more out of Ben Simmons than any other coach in the history of basketball says a lot about Will Wade, as far as I'm concerned.
Miraculous.
You know what I'm saying? Let's give this guy some credit. And I love a guy who will go out and put his nuts on the line. I mean, in his press conference when he got hired, he said, "Look, we're going to the NCAA tournament. We're going to do big things here at McNeese," and they've been rolling. So there's something about and look, and we're going to get to the KU thing here in a second, but it's just there's certain teams this year that are usually really, really good that they're having kind of a down year, or let's put it this way, and
someone's going to make a run. Someone who's not expected to make a run is going to make a run. It happens every year.
That's it. And that's why Kentucky's at, for like you said, sleeper Kentucky is one of those teams for me, which is incredible. But yeah, I'm with you. I like I like McNeese to upset Gonzaga in this deal. Now,
I got Gonzaga going to the Elite Eight. Let me get the death threats out of the way.
I was going to say, you've already shit all over U of H. I know you've got one more team that you'd like to shit all over, and that might be
this Purdue team. I'm so sick of watching them every frigging year. First of all, I don't think they're that good anyway. And I know they were undefeated against the AP Top 25 until they lost the other day. I cannot stand this basketball team. Okay. And you know who they remind me of? You remember when Clemson in football was good, but they always lost big games, and you came up with the term Clemsoning, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Purdueing, right?
Yeah.
I know Clemson eventually broke through and won national titles. Okay, this Purdue team, garbage. I don't have them. TCU? I think TCU beats them in a round of 32. So you guys can send the death threats to Chris at takingvegas.com. I'll read them. I'll reply. It's all good.
Yeah, we'll bring those up at the next. We will bring those up on the next show. As a matter of fact, I would love to hear some of those. Let's keep it. Above board, of course. But now, look, I told, like we talked about before the show, though. Purdue's only the second number one seed in the history of the NCAA tournament since it expanded to 64 teams. To lose to a 16 seed. Of course, Virginia did it back in 2018. They lose, and then boom, they come around right back next year and win the NCAA tournament. So I'm not saying Purdue's going to win the NCAA tournament this year. I'll go ahead and just get that out of the way right now. But I will say this. I do think Purdue's going to make a run this year. I do think they're a lot better. And I think there's something to be said for having been slapped around like that, having that taste in your mouth. And I think, like I said, I'm sticking with the theme of coaches breaking through, or at least, coaches that have been there before finally starting to get closer to that. And I think Matt Painter, as we talked about, is one of those coaches who's kind of always perpetually stubbed his toe in big moments. Again, I think he's not going to win the tournament this year, but I do think that Purdue is going to make a run like what we expected to do last year.
Here's the thing with Purdue, okay? They live at the free throw line. You got that big guy over there who's been around forever. He takes and look, I'm not saying anything bad about the kid. He's a good player, right? And by all intents and purposes, seems like a good person too, which is important, right?
Absolutely.
This guy's taking like 100 more free throws than the next closest guy this year. NCAA tournament, they're not putting you to the line like that. So if Purdue doesn't live at the free throw line, forget them. This team was life or death, almost lost to Michigan State. Okay. Then they go and lose to Wisconsin in a game they couldn't close out. They were winning the game with 3 seconds left, couldn't close it out. And it's just like anything with Purdue that could eventually go wrong, goes wrong. And I just don't like their psyche. I think if they play TCU, if Utah State beats TCU, I don't think Utah State can beat Purdue.
Okay.
I think a Purdue-TCU matchup, that's a bad matchup. That's not a good matchup because TCU is very athletic, and they could run Purdue up and down the court. So I'm not a Purdue guy. I don't got them getting past TCU if they played them. And the hypocrisy in me, I got Gonzaga getting to the Elite Eight with Tennessee. I got Gonzaga and Tennessee playing in the Elite Eight.
Here's what's funny about you and I's picks. You and I agree. We have at least one. We agree on at least one team out of the Elite Eight. Every game so far, you and I both like Kentucky in the Elite Eight. We like Iowa State in the Elite Eight. I like Tennessee as well. We both picked Arizona in the Elite Eight as well. I like Purdue and Tennessee as well. I do. I kind of vacillated back and forth between Purdue and Tennessee because I do like that Dalton Connect kid from Tennessee, but I don't know. I don't know why I went with Purdue. I probably should have stuck with Tennessee instead, just for that reason. Just because I do. Look, Rick Barnes, he's another one, right? He's another guy.
Can't win a big game.
Can't win a big game,
can't
right?
Win a big game.
I just
and again, hypocrisy. Like, I'm saying he can't win a big game. Look, like, I don't think Creighton can make a run out of that. I don't think South Carolina or Oregon can make a run out of that. Colorado State looked impressive last night, but Virginia sucks.
Virginia's terrible.
Where are we with Texas? Do we think Texas can do anything? I mean, I got
them getting beat by Colorado State.
Okay, so obviously we got Tennessee getting past St. Peter's, right? I mean, so Colorado State, Tennessee would be round of 32. I don't think Colorado State can beat them.
No.
Okay, and that would leave, let's go with Creighton. Does Creighton come out of that side with Creighton, Akron, South Carolina, Oregon? I think Tennessee kind of walks to the Elite Eight. I don't think they got a hard path to get to the Elite Eight.
I could see Creighton giving them fits just because that is, McDermott is a tournament-tested guy, and there is something to be said for having coaches that can make adjustments. And that team always is like a sneaky three-point shooting team. So, look, would I be surprised if Creighton – and look, to your point, the fact that Rick Barnes does always find a way to piss down his leg in big moments. Would I be surprised if Trenton beat Tennessee and snuck into the Elite Eight? Not at all. Not at all. But I just think Tennessee's Tennessee's got better athletes. Tennessee's a better overall basketball team. Do I think Tennessee should win that game? Yes, I do. And like I said, I've got them going to the Elite Eight against Purdue.
And then if you go above, I think the injuries with Kansas, which you're well documented with, I think that struggles, and I think Gonzaga catches a break there. You got McNeese State beating Gonzaga. I don't. I got Gonzaga beating them. And then I got Gonzaga playing either a hurt Kansas team or Sanford. Okay? Gonzaga is favored in that game. They're favored again. Kansas hurt. No McCullers out for the season. Gonzaga's favored in that game. Okay? Whether they play Kansas or they play Sanford, they're favored. So because my disdain for Purdue, and I don't trust them at all,
yeah,
I got Gonzaga. Let's say I think Kansas gets past Sanford. I think Gonzaga wins. Gonzaga beats them. And then I got Gonzaga and TCU playing in the Sweet 16, and I think Gonzaga beats them. So I got Gonzaga, Tennessee, and I got Tennessee coming out of the bracket.
I'm calling this the Will Wade redemption tour. I've got him riding the Cowboys, pun intended, to a Sweet 16 where they finally get upended by the Purdue Boilermakers. And the one thing that I was worried about this before McCuller was ruled out yesterday. The one thing about this KU basketball team, A, they can't shoot, and B, they're terrible at three-pointers, and they're not deep, right? And so
they don't play defense.
They don't play deep. They're defensively, they're
only at home do they play defense.
Let's put it this way. In the last, they start, I don't know, the stats have been, I think they're like 9-8 or 8-9 in the last 17 games or whatever it is. The one team, the teams that give them problems are teams that can shoot threes and teams that get up and down the court. And guess what? Sanford does both of those things. Sanford makes almost 10 threes a game. That's 30 points right there. Now, do we think they're going to make 10? I don't know. Say they make 8 or 9, KU makes 2 or 3. I mean, they're going to have to make more this game if they're going to want to stick around. I just think there's just too much bad body language. There's too many bad vibes. And of course, the from a fan perspective, Kevin McCuller is catching strays left and right from the fan base, because if you listen to what Bill Self said yesterday, but if you read between the lines, it wasn't the most endearing, let's put it this way, endearing declaration that Kevin McCuller was going to be out. So the KU struggles continue. I like Sanford to pull the upset, but at the end of the day, I still like Purdue against Chris Hodge's wishes. I think Purdue finds a way, and the fighting Matt Painters make it to a Final Four where they will match up with the Kentucky Wildcats.
So I got on that side, I got Tennessee and Duke.
Okay.
But I can Tennessee and Kentucky could be from my bracket. I got Tennessee and Duke on that side. I have Iowa State and Arizona on the other side. Now, again, do I think Iowa State can go to Boston where it's going to be, we talked about this a half hour ago, and beat UConn? Look, UConn's going to be favored in the game. I don't want to take the chalk. I don't like that, so I'm going a little different here. I got Iowa State and Arizona.
Okay.
I got Iowa State and Tennessee playing for the national. I got Iowa State winning it.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
That's ballsy, because I'm going with the team coming out of the UConn bracket. And here's why I'm doing that, just to give everyone just the into my mindset. I got whoever comes out of the UConn bracket winning the national title. That's who I have. I think whoever comes out of that bracket, and it very well could be UConn, but I'm not 4-1. I don't.
So you got the Iowa State Cyclones winning a national championship in 2024.
I was so impressed by that performance against Houston.
Yeah.
Not just from what they did to them defensively, but his name slips my mind, but that big white kid, the 7-footer who can shoot.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
Floor,
like 30 or something like that. Yeah.
Defense travels.
It does.
So they're very, everyone was on Houston as a great defensive team, and they were. They're the number one defensive team in the country, but Iowa State right behind them. So we know they can score. We know they can defend. And at 18-1, I like the value. Now, again, getting past UConn in Boston is not going to be easy. But if they do that, I don't think anyone's beating them in the Final Four. Arizona has laid eggs all year long.
That's it. You look, man. They have.
Now, I want to talk
look.
about.
I love the. I love the Iowa State.
Why not?
I love the Iowa State pick.
Why not? So Duke, Tennessee,
I
Iowa
vacillated
State,
on
Arizona,
them.
Iowa State playing Tennessee.
Okay. I went.
Now,
like I said, I went a little more blue.
Yeah, give me your 4. What's your final 4? No, go ahead.
Okay.
Tell me your
my 4. My 4. North Kakalaki, Auburn, Purdue, and Kentucky. And then I'm going the bluest of blue bloods in the championship game. I've got North Carolina and Kentucky. And I've got John Calipari overcoming and exercising some demons. And with that group, the Reed Shepherd, the Dillinghams of the world, the 4 and 7'2" kid, and just the depth of this team, and they're healthy. That's the thing. This is the healthiest Kentucky's been. They've got their full complement of stars, and you've got a John Calipari who, say what you want about him. Last I checked, he's one of the best coaches of all time.
Sure.
He's got some demons to exercise. I like the Kentucky Wildcats, much like what KU did 2 years ago to shock the world. Give me that 25-1 when it's all said and done. Go Big Blue.
Now, where are we with Marquette? Do we think Marquette can make a run if they get healthy? I know that's in the Kentucky bracket.
I loathe Shaka Smart so much that I just can't allow myself to pick them to really do much.
I can't believe losing to UConn. That team won the Big East tournament last year. A lot depends on Kolek if he's healthy, but I do want to throw out one team that no one is mentioning. Okay. That I don't believe is going to win based on my Final Four. Mm-hmm. But I do believe if they get hot and the bracket falls their way, they could be a problem.
Okay.
And this is a team down near your neck of the woods. Okay. I think Baylor could be, look, they're playing Colgate, and then they'll get the winner of Clemson and New Mexico. They're going to beat Colgate. Okay? Yeah. Clemson, New Mexico does not scare me. Right? So I got Baylor going to the Sweet 16
against Arizona.
I have Arizona waiting for them. Now, you just heard my Final Four. I just gave you Arizona in the Final Four. But it would not shock me at all if Baylor beat Arizona. That would not shock me. And if Baylor beats Arizona, I think they're 35-1, right? Yeah, 35-1. I mean, no one's talking about them. They have national title pedigree, right? They've been in big games. No one is talking about them. So that's a team a big name team that no one is speaking about at 35-1.
I'll tell you what, I've been burned by Baylor too many times.
No, you got to take that out of it, though. You got to take the emotion out of it.
I know, and that's my problem. I have a hard time with that, taking the emotion out of things. I mean, it probably says a lot about me and just my personal life, but that's another story for another show. Here's the problem with Baylor. The thing about Baylor that worries me a little bit is they can get a little out of control. And
that's why they're 35-1.
And Scott drew teams. Here's the problem with this team, that as I see it. They're young, and I think the thing about this team is that what worries me is if they get cold, A, they don't play a lot of great defense, and B, if they get cold, I've got them losing to Clemson in the second round. I do.
Look, that's fine. I'm not sold. That Clemson New Mexico game from my business standpoint now, that's a game I'm staying away from.
Yeah, because it's too much.
My guys, we've broken down this tournament starting late Sunday night. I had my guys here. You're going to laugh at this, but early Monday morning. I had my guys here at 1 a.m.
I believe it.
On Sunday night, Monday morning, and we worked breaking down the tournament where we felt matchups could be exploited in terms of against the point spread. Okay. That Clemson New Mexico game, boy, that's a game you stay away from. You don't want your money on that game. For a free pick, where is it? BYU. What bracket is it? BYU Duquesne. That's the East.
Yes.
And now that's a big number. Okay, BYU is a big favorite in that game. I think they're -9 or -9.5. But for a free pick here on the show, I think BYU blasts Duquesne. I don't know if you guys watched that championship game, who's watching this right now, or you two as well, Fred. But Duquesne played VCU in that title game the other day on Sunday. Okay, Now, great job by Duquesne. They won the game. But with, I want to say, 6 minutes left in the second half, or maybe 8 minutes left, somewhere around that area, Duquesne had scored 6 points in the second half.
That's insane.
And they were winning the game. They scored 6 points in between 12 and 14 minutes. And against a BYU team that could shoot the hell out of the ball, not good.
No, BYU.
And now if you look at your other 6-11s, the point spread isn't that high. It's I think it's as high. Texas Tech is -5.5 against NC State, which could be a problem too. But BYU is -9, 9.5. BYU should blast Duquesne. Blast.
Are you guys telling people to stay away from the Dayton Nevada game as well?
Want nothing to do with it. Want nothing to do with it. Can't trust either team. Can't trust Dayton. Can't trust Nevada. Want nothing to do with that game from a point spread perspective. I mean, look, you got to pick and choose your fights in this thing. There's 64, 68 teams, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to bet every game from a point spread perspective. Like the brackets are fun. You know, like the brackets are fun.
Absolutely.
But from a point spread perspective, no, that's a game I'd stay away from. Here's another game I'd stay away from: Mississippi State, Michigan State.
Oh, I want no part of that. I want no part of that.
Auburn's supposed to run Yale out of the building. They're supposed to run Yale out of the building.
Yeah.
But you worry sometimes with teams that won their conference tournament coming around and playing again that first game. You know, where are their legs? Where are they? But they're supposed to run them out of the building. And then
but you got to remember, though, a lot of these teams, and I will give my boy Bill Self credit for this, a lot of these power conferences, especially the SECs, the Big 12s of the world, I want to say even the ACC, although I do think Big 10, I think they play their championship game on Sunday. But I know the Big 12 and the SEC, or actually, no, I think the SEC plays theirs on Sunday too. But I know the Big 12, they started moving their championship game to Saturday so that they could give their teams an extra day of rest.
I don't know why they don't start these conference tournaments on Tuesday.
It makes
on Saturday.
It makes too much sense.
Again, this is the NCAA, and I'll say this. I've done this on my podcast. I think there are 3 insanely criminal organizations in the world, right? Lifetime. I have the NCAA as one of them. The mafia, the media, and the NCAA. Those are my 3. Like, they're criminals.
I like that.
They exploit the kids, and then when how much are these schools going to make off this tournament? Billions?
Yeah.
Heaven forbid the kids want a little piece of it. You know, the kids, the ones who are watching, right?
It's going to happen, though. It's going to happen. I think it's definitely going to happen, especially since they get the whole, unionized and all that kind of stuff. I think it's only a matter of time. Yep. We've got 4 more games. We got 2 games tonight, correct?
2 games tonight. The Montana State game, like no one cares. Boise State, Colorado. I like that game. You know what? For tonight, I think Colorado ultimately beats them. I know Colorado laid the egg against Oregon, but look, Oregon had a player that just got insanely hot in that game. I don't think he missed a shot. Colorado's been a good team all year long. I think it's close for a little bit, but they're better than Boise State. I think it's like the Colorado State game last night. Same point spread, 2.5. So I like Colorado in that to beat Boise State. And the Montana State game, just stay away from. Montana State Grambling, like Howard Wagner. How do you figure that out? So it's, you stay away from it.
TakingVegas.com. I know like you said, your boys have been at it since 1 a.m. over the last 3 days. And, of course, I know there's still plenty of work to be done. And, of course, don't forget, for the folks watching, after the first round of games are over, then your guys got to get back to – your guys don't stop because then you start handicapping the second round of games, right?
We usually go through a couple divorces this week.
Yeah, no.
We have a couple guys in my office get divorced every time around this week. No joke. Like, wives hate us this week. We're never around.
That's a shame, but you guys should know. They should know. This is what y'all do. This is partially all Super Bowl here. Do you touch the women's tournament at all?
Oh man, oh boy, you set me up for this one. I'm gonna get some
Yeah.
hate. No, I do
That's
not.
fair. That's fair.
I do not.
Although your girl Caitlin Clark, man, they did not do her any favors in that bracket. Holy mackerel. Anyway,
I gotta be honest, man. I don't look at the NCAA women's bracket. I don't look at the WNBA. Bill Burr did a phenomenal skit on that. It is not my job to watch the women's game.
Yeah,
that's the women's job to watch and support them.
Absolutely,
which I agree with. I want to watch the men. If I was a girl, I probably still want to watch the men, but
It's all right. That's all right. You do a damn good job of what you do. TakingVegas.com. For those of you out there, make sure you go to the website. Like I said, they're going to be busy these next 4 days. Look, if you're going to be betting on these games and you're getting into the NCAA tournament for the first time, or maybe you've done it before and you want to have a little bit more, a little bit more education behind it, a little more guidance, who better than Chris and his team over at TakingVegas.com? Chris, anything I'm missing out on or anything that the folks need to check into over these next 24 hours before the games tip off for real on Thursday?
No, I mean, they can text the word win to the number 545454. There'll be free picks on there. Don't do that today. If you're watching this video on Wednesday, don't do that, but you can start that on Thursday. So text the word win to the number 545454. Visit takingvegas.com. We have everything broken down, written up there. And then we have Sports Investors Daily. By the way, real quick, I just completed my 600th Saturday show with Sports Investors Daily. I've done that show since 2006. We do about 34 to 35 Saturdays a year. So I just finished number 600. I think I'm at 602 now. So doing things the right way.
Congratulations, man. That's no small feat. That is no small feat because look, handicappers come and go, gamblers come and go, and it's not for the faint of heart. So if you'd be able to do
18 years, man.
Look, that's a testament to your longevity. And obviously, look, and as you know, and as people watching this know, for you to be able to do it that long and still be on the right side of the dirt, you're doing something right.
Trying my best.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to stick around. And like I said, we got plenty more coming from the Big Chief Show. More announcements coming. It's just been a little helter-skelter since football season was over. But stay tuned. TakingVegas.com, Chief Studios. For Chris Hodge, I'm still that dude, Freddie D. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the tournament. Gamble, bet responsibly. And again, if you're unsure as to what direction you want to go, you can't go wrong with talking to my boy Chris Hodge and the team over at TakingVegas.com. Everybody, enjoy the next 4 days. Rock chalk. Best of luck. We'll see you on the other side. Boom.